We're live. Morning, everyone. My name's Kizzy Marshall, and I'm the community agent for East Mendip. And this morning, we've got the lovely Debs from CSE, which is the Centre for Sustainable Energy. And she's just been giving me some tips on how to save energy. So I'm pretty sure there'll be everybody will benefit from this talking cafe today. And I've been really looking forward to it for ages. So, Debs, take it away.
Oh, okay, thank you. Hello. So I'm Deb and I am a field poverty advisor or a caseworker for the Centre for Sustainable Energy. So that is a charity that's based in Bristol. And kind of the main reason that we exist is because we don't want anybody to be living in a cold home or paying too much for the energy that they use. And so that's partly why the charity exists, and there's lots of information on our website if you want to know more about the charity. But one of the projects that is run by them is the Safe and Warm Somerset, and that's who I work with. And our aim is to basically improve the energy efficiency of all homes across Somerset in order to help make the homes warmer and cheaper to heat, and to reduce the risk of ill health and hospital admissions. So yeah, it doesn't matter. You don't have to be on benefits. You don't have to be fuel poor in order to get energy advice from us. And there are many different ways that you can get that advice. So you can phone our advice line for some just basic information over the phone. And if they feel that you would benefit from one-to-one support, then somebody like me would get in touch with you and then support you. So hopefully today I'm going to explain what it is that we do and why we do it, and then the different things that you can do to help yourself. Okay, so there are, it's kind of a known fact and statistically proven that living in a cold home can impact your health. And the World Health Organization recommends that the main living spaces that you are in, that you spend your time in, should be around 21 degrees. So that's where you should set your thermostat on your heating for the rooms that you spend, like your living room, should be about 21 degrees. The other rooms that you don't use as much, they can be around 18 degrees. Once you start getting below that temperature in the rooms that you are spending a lot of your time in, and that can start impacting on your health. So you're talking about asthma and COPD, those sorts of things can start to get impacted, particularly if there's damp in the home. That can really kind of get to your chest. Cardiovascular conditions, so things like strokes and heart attacks, can also be affected by the temperature that you are in, particularly if you get much lower down at about 12 degrees. According to all of basically if you're feeling cold, it can have significant impacts on your mental health. So, you know, you're grumpy, you're miserable, you're living in a cold home, you're all wrapped up, you don't want to go anywhere, you don't want to let anyone in because you're embarrassed that your house is cold. You haven't really got the motivation to get up and get doing stuff. And if you do, then there's an extra risk that you might fall, because if you know, arthritis or whatever can get worse, those kind of things can happen. You also might have a bit of stress and anxiety because you might be really worried about the fact that your house is cold and you can't afford to heat it. So it's kind of making you feel bad about yourself. So it's kind of not very good, really. If your temperature gets below 9 degrees and you spend any decent period of time in a space where it's 9 degrees, you're basically looking at hypothermia. So it could drop significantly, and then that's when you know, well, we all know what happens if you get hypothermic. It's actually a real risk to your life, not just your health. So unfortunately, it is a fact of life that in this country, more people die in the winter than they do in the summer. It's just a fact. It's what happened. Statistically, it's around about 32,000 people in the UK that will die between December and March, on top of what would ordinarily statistically happen in the summer. They're called excess winter deaths, 32,000 of them. And that's kind of a fact, and we can't really do a huge amount about that. Except around a third of those, just shy of 10,000 of those deaths are avoidable, okay? And it's because of the circumstances of living in a cold home. Now, that's the same number of people that die of breast cancer or of prostate cancer each year in this country. And so that's the thing that bugs me, actually, is that that's nearly 10,000 people that have died for no real reason, just because they're living in a cold home. So bringing it down to where we're at is Somerset. 540 excess winter deaths are attributed to the whole of Somerset. So if we take the same statistic and make that a third, there's 180 people in Somerset that are dying because of avoidable. We could fix that. We can do something about that, just because they're living in a cold home. So that's why I do what I do. That's why I'm here. That's why the charity exists. And so together with whoever out there is listening or watching, it's about identifying those people that are living in those conditions and telling them that there is some support out there. And making it known that they don't have to do that forever, and it is fixable, you know.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we're proof of that, because we refer people to you all the time, and I've had great success with referring my clients to you, and you've been so helpful to them, particularly during this time of the pandemic and things. So yeah, thank you. That, Debs.
Now is a really, really good time, because we are about to get into winter. So if we know about them now, we could possibly do something about it and get them some heating before it gets really cold. So yeah, now is a good time.
Which is the main sort of aim of this Talking Cafe today, really, is because with the upcoming winter, and we want to avoid people having to be unnecessarily admitted into an already overstretched hospital department.
Yeah, especially with COVID and everything, and we don't know if there's going to be another spike and all of that going on. Yeah. Okay, so I said at the beginning that I'm a fuel poverty advisor. So just to give you a bit of awareness about what fuel poverty is. So very roughly, there is a new fancy way of working it out, but in a nutshell, very roughly, it's around 10% of your income being spent on fuel costs will make you fuel poor. So it doesn't mean to say that you have to be on benefits to be spending 10%. You could be having a really healthy salary coming in, but if you're spending a lot of money, and that's what Kizzy and I were talking about earlier, if you're spending a lot of money
I was so surprised, because I was sort of sitting there saying, you know, I do the comparison websites. I put in my meter readings every month, and I'm paying, what did I say, about £120 for a 2-bed semi detached cottage. And Debs has informed me that that is a lot. So
it's high, and you know, there are changes that you can make, and we'll talk about all of those later. But you know, if that's 10% of your salary, then in essence you're in fuel poverty. You know, you don't have to be in fuel poverty in order for us to support you. So it's not like a fixed rule, but it's just so people are a little bit aware of that, and then they can think about themselves and how much am I spending and how much money do I have coming in, and actually, is there something I need to do about this? So in Somerset, there are about 9.7, I'm looking at that, my little figures on the side here, 9.7% of Somerset households are in fuel poverty. And that equates to 24,000 people, or 24,000 homes. One of the figures that I do also think is quite interesting is 4% of the homes in Somerset actually don't have central heating. So those of us that do, we get a bit chilly, we switch it on. You know, the on-off ability was the advert many years ago. So we switch it on and we're really used to it and we're really comfortable about it. But actually, there are nearly 8,000 homes in Somerset that don't have that central heating. So I think that's another thing that's quite surprising. But basically, fuel poverty means that you've got high fuel costs, you've got low income, you've got inefficient homes, energy efficient homes that aren't energy efficient, I should say. Okay, so what do we do about that? How do we overcome that? So there are different things that we can do to help ourselves, and there is different help available through myself and other agencies. So it is about making your homes more efficient, energy efficient. There are some behavioural changes that you can make in order to save or reduce the amount of energy you're using. Managing your bills and dealing with your debts is another thing that we can help you with. Switching, we're going to talk about switching a bit later, because that's, I think, really important and one of the easiest ways in how that you can save yourself some money. And then there is some...
What did you say today?
Say that again.
What did you say to me just before this live about if you've been with your energy provider for
a couple of years, any more than a couple of years, i.e. if you switched with them a couple of years ago, I can pretty much guarantee that you would save yourself some money if you switched today. Yeah, and it's because the deals change so much and prices have gone down, they go up a little bit, they go down a little bit. So it is really, and certainly I was with somebody that's been with the same company. So they've moved house twice and they've taken the same company with them. And I think she's been with them for 25 years. And I'm like, oh my God, you will so be able to save yourself some money if you switch. But we'll talk about that in a bit more. And then there are some different financial supports and grants and entitlements that is also worth looking into. Okay, so insulation and draft proofing are draft proofing definitely is a simple thing that you can do yourself. Go to your local DIY. If you've got a drafty window, you can kind of get some foam to fill it up. Sometimes when your washing machine is plugged into the house, that they don't fill the hole up, that the tube, I call it tube, what's it called? I don't know. The thing that sticks out the thing that sticks out your house and takes the water away to the drain. They sometimes don't fill that hole up, and so that's basically that, like, welcoming the cold air into your home. So little things like that can make quite a big difference in terms of feeling the drafts that your cold shoulder or whatever. When you're talking about insulation, you actually lose more heat out of your walls than you do out of your loft. And people often think that you get your loft insulated. They don't really think about the walls that they have. And there was lots of different types of insulation. So you're talking about cavity walls. So that's when you have one layer of brick and another layer of brick and there's a gap in the middle. And they fill that with polystyrene balls, making your wall, giving, like a blanket inside your walls. If you don't have cavity walls, then you can have insulation on the outside of your wall put on. You can have insulation on the inside of your walls put on. That's a bit more tricky and it's a bit more expensive and it's a bit more, disrupts your life a little bit more to have either of those done, but it still is effective. You have loft insulation, which lots of people have. The regulations have changed, so now it's got to be thicker than it used to be. So, you can have top-ups done now. And then, and floor, insulation on your floor as well. You can have that done too. You actually only lose 15% through your windows and doors. And lots of people think, I must get double glazing. And that's quite expensive, can be more expensive. And there's less grants to help you with that than there are with wall and loft insulation. Bless you. Get your walls done, get your loft done, and give your house a little blanket to keep it warmer. It will save you money in the long run, but there can be an outlay initially. Okay, your heating. So I mentioned that there are quite a few homes out there that don't have heating in Somerset at the moment. And we don't have, there's about 30% of homes that don't have a gas connection. Now, mains gas isn't necessarily better, but it is often cheaper than the other alternatives. However, the sustainable heatings now, the price of them are coming down and it is getting a little bit easier to have those and use those now. So they're kind of meeting up with, and you can't build a new home now and put gas central heating in it, because it is about moving away from that into sustainable energy instead of
I never knew that.
Yeah, so fossil fuels are kind of being, phased out.
Okay. So
efficient heating. So if you've got a really old boiler, it's worth getting that replaced and getting that changed. Certainly, if you've got a broken boiler, then we might be able to help you and support you to get some funding to pay towards that, or to pay for all of that, depending on what your needs, what your circumstances are. But yeah, having good heating, efficient heating, and a warm home with a blanket around it will make a big difference to your bills. If you've got damp, that will be possibly around the fact that you've got a leaking roof, for example, or you've got cracked render on your walls, or that sort of thing that's bringing the external water into your home. There are condensation damp as well. So if you dry your clothes on the radiator, for example, then that might help. If you don't ventilate your home, then that might be an issue. If your heating's not very good, then all of those can develop mold. They are and can be quite significant if you've got health conditions. Mold and damp can make it a lot worse. And again, if you can't afford to get your house the roof fixed, then we have people that we can speak to that can support you to do that. So Somerset Independence Plus are a really good organisation that can support with finding funding or supporting you to get that fixed. Bills and switching. Many people don't actually understand what's written on their bill, but there is some legislation recently. So your bill should be a little bit easier to read now, and it should be a bit easier, that they should explain it a bit better now on your actual paper bill. But yeah, thinking about how much you actually owe. Often the bills are estimated. So are you submitting meter readings, or if you've got a smart meter that does that for you, then they will be accurate figures. But often they guess, and they guess wrong quite a lot. So they're either guessing that you use more and therefore are charging you more for energy that you're not using, or they're guessing you're using more than you're paying for, and then at the end of the time that you're with them, you're going to be lumped with quite a big bill. That happens a lot, and it is simply because people aren't submitting their meter readings. If you're on a monthly direct debit, it's often cheaper than it would be if you were going to pay on receipt of the bill. That they feel secure because they can almost guarantee that you're going to pay them, so they give you a little bit of discount. If you go paperless and don't have a paper bill but you have it online, that's also another way of saving yourself just a little bit of money. So switching. 90% of customers are using the 6 large main firms, main energy companies. And of the 90% of people that are using those, 70% of them are on the standard variable tariff. So the basic tariff that you get, which invariably will be more expensive than any special deal that they've got going at the moment. Switching is so much easier than it used to be. It can happen and you don't really know it's happening. And you just get an email to say, oh, you're now with a new company, and the savings can be significant. So it can be up to £300 a year, which isn't something to sniff at. And even if it's £100 a year, that's still a tenner a month, roughly.
How much did you save the client that you had the other day when I was talking to you?
I've got one that I was disappointed because one of them yesterday, it was only £100 and something, and I was disappointed by that because I wanted it to be more. But then there was one that is 300 and something. Yeah, it was definitely 300 quid. I can't remember without looking at my notes, but very often it's a couple of £100 by switching. Yeah.
Mm.
And you can't do that easily with using in the other ways, money saving things. So this is,
it seems really quite daunting, I think, for people, doesn't it? If you don't switch. Yeah, if you're not familiar with the internet, which is why it's really great for us to be able to offer our
Yeah, for
clients?
those that really struggle to do it, then we can and we will support people to do that. For those that do have some IT skills, again, happy to talk them through how to do it. So next time they can do it for themselves.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's not actually that difficult. My biggest advice really would be from the company that you're currently with, find out how much energy you've used in a year. Now, energy is measured in kilowatt hours, and if you get your annual kilowatt hours or your yearly usage, and you've got that figure, how much energy do you use? When you type that into a comparison site, it's going to give you a really accurate comparison and will be able to tell you pretty much exactly what you're going to be paying every month. And you may be surprised. There are several websites that also grade the quality of the supplier, because often people think, I've never heard of these, who are they, are they any good? And so they will rate the supplier by how many complaints they've had to Ofgem, for example. So there are a few websites which I can share with you if you want, and I did send some links, so if anybody's interested, then they can have those. But yeah, definitely worth switching. It's also definitely worth talking to them if you get yourself into debt. They are used to having conversations with people that owe them money. They are used to making plans, and the sooner you call them and you discuss it with them, the sooner the plan is set, and the easier it will be for you. The longer you wait, the harder it is. We do support a lot of people that have accrued quite significant debts with companies, and there are ways and means in which we can do either to get that debt written off or to make it very manageable for them to be able to afford the repayments that the companies are asking. They often ask for really large repayments initially, and if you can't afford that, don't ignore that. Call us and we'll help them, or call the company, call the energy company directly and say, I can't afford it. They're really used to having those conversations, and it's definitely worth doing. The other thing to think about is whether you're entitled to any benefits. So can you increase your income in any way? And there are lots of what are they called, benefit checkers that you can access. Just typing in a few details and will tell you kind of whether you're entitled to that. And the citizens' advice are fantastic with helping you to follow that through. So that would I recommend. There are some financial support and discounts that people get. So if you're a pensioner, then you might be entitled to some money off your water bill. If you there's a thing called the warm home discount, and different companies have different criteria. So it might be worth calling and finding out whether you are eligible for the warm home discount. That comes from the energy supplier themselves, and it's £140 a year. It's definitely worth. If you are on a low income, if you're receiving any sort of benefit, if you are a pensioner, then it would definitely be worth having that conversation with your energy supplier just to find out whether you're eligible. Once they know that you are eligible for it, then they should let you know, but not every company lets you know. They usually, around the September to October time, they open it up because it's not available all year round. So they open it up for people to apply for it, usually around September and October. So now is the time to be calling your energy supplier and asking about the warm home discount. There is a Surviving Winter Fund, and different organisations like myself, like yours, Kizzy, like Citizens Advice, have access to the Surviving Winter Fund. And that's for people that are really struggling financially to be able to pay their bills. And it comes from the discount that pensioners receive, and not all pensioners need it. So if you don't need it, then you can donate that money to the Surviving Winter Fund that can be distributed to people that do need help with them. But you need to, the Community Council for Somerset and the Citizens Advice, you need to go to those to apply for that. Water Sure. So talk very briefly about water. Water are really good and have lots of different ways to support people. So pensioner discount, I mentioned, you automatically get that, but you do need to let them know you're a pensioner. And then there is assist and there's restart. So you can have assistance. They can assist you with and help you pay your bills. And if you get into debt with them, they have a restart system where you agree a payment plan for a period of time. And after you've been paying that for a period of time, then they will then clear your debt. They are online forms that you can access and complete. They do need a lot of information, but it's kind of worth it if you know you're going to get that sorted at the end of it, or get a reduction in your bill. Again, most people that are on benefits will qualify for it, so it's worth having a look. Next bit. Oh yeah, grants. So we talked about getting loft insulation, cavity wall insulation, all of those sorts of things, getting your boiler repaired, that sort of thing. There are grants available to you. So there is what's called ECO, and that's the energy company obligation. So basically all of the big energy companies get together, put some money in a pot, and they make that available to support people to make their homes more efficient. And we can access that grant. Companies, only certain companies have access to it and can claim for it once they've done the work. And it will either mean that it will be free to you, or it will mean that the contribution, your contribution, will be significantly reduced because the grant will cover some or more, most of the costs. There's the new grant that's just been released in September called the Green Homes Grant. And that is available to anybody, regardless of whether you're on benefits or not. If you're on benefits, you get a higher discount than you would if you're not, but it's still quite a significant chunk of the money. So if you wanted to get loft or cavity wall insulation done, or your boiler, then they will pay a significant amount towards that. And the government have just released that, and it's definitely worth looking to Google Green Home Grants or give us a call, and we'll be able to help you to get the information that you need for it. There's also the home improvement grants. I did mention earlier about your leak in your roof. If you can't afford to get that done and your home is becoming in disrepair, then there are each of the councils, of the district councils, have a pot of money to support people to make their homes safer and in better condition. So there's lots of things out there that you can access.
Can I just butt in there and say that we at Mendip, we can refer people to that as well. So yeah.
Yeah, it's not just us, yeah. Yeah, it doesn't matter. To be fair, it doesn't matter who they come to, me or you. They'll get the same support and advice, won't they, really? So yeah, that's fine. And I'm nearly finished. So Priority Service Register, the PSR, if you have a health condition or you're vulnerable for whatever reason, if you let your energy supplier and your water supplier know, they will put you on the Priority Service Register. So if you need water for a medical condition and something goes wrong with the water, they will make sure that you have enough for your needs. If there is a power cut and you need electricity for some sort of medical equipment, they will make sure that you have one if they're planning a power cut, or if a power cut happens, then you will be on the priority for them to inform to let you know. So yeah, really useful for vulnerable people to register with it. And it is actually simply ringing up and letting them know of your conditions, and they will add you to it. So that's me done, I think, Kizzy.
You've done extremely well. You've done really well. Well done. Never done one of these before, but you're quite on it with doing PowerPoint presentations and things. But
it's helpful to have something to follow, to be fair, on the other side of my screen, because I won't remember what I had to say if not. But yeah.
Well, thank you so much for joining me today. You made my job as a talking cafe. Really.
I wasn't concentrating. Were there any comments from anybody?
I just asked if anybody had anything to ask, but it doesn't. I think you pretty much covered everything.
I bombarded them with information and facts.
I don't think that there's a single person that this talking cafe wouldn't benefit, because I think, like you said, often people think it is just people that are on benefits and you know, more vulnerable people, but you do support everyone, so that's brilliant. And I know that all of us at the Community Council for Somerset love you, because we're, you know, you're so helpful, and I know I've had a few clients and that you've really helped. So thank you for that. Thank you again for joining me today. It's been really good. Hopefully we'll get to do another one in the not too distant future. This is a refresher. If you've got anything, because you've obviously said that you've got the green home that's coming out.
Yes, that's relatively new, and to be honest, we're still kind of working out for ourselves what who's eligible and what you can get with it, really. So I haven't got that down, and it's not in there yet, but give me time.
Brilliant. So that's all from us today. Thank you so much, Deb.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.